The room was full of power, money, and carefully measured smiles, yet the man standing quietly near the back might as well have been invisible. Expensive suits brushed past him, polished shoes stepped around him, and no one bothered to ask his name. Then the janitor entered, paused mid-step, looked straight at him with wide eyes, and greeted him in a way that froze the entire room. In that single moment, everything everyone believed about status, worth, and identity began to collapse. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of respect that can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps these meaningful stories alive. The conference was being held in downtown San Francisco, inside a glass tower that reflected wealth like a mirror to the sky. Executives from across the United States had gathered to discuss mergers, investments, and the future of technology. Among them was David Lin, a Chinese-American billionaire who had built his fortune from nothing. He had arrived early, wearing a simple dark coat instead of a tailored suit, his posture relaxed, his expression calm. Years of success had taught him that loud presence was unnecessary when purpose was clear. David had not always been wealthy. He was raised by immigrant parents in a small apartment in California, where faith, discipline, and humility were valued more than appearances. His parents were Christians who believed deeply in service and gratitude, and they passed those values on to him. David worked tirelessly through school, cleaned offices at night, and learned early how easily people overlooked those they assumed had little to offer. As he stood in the room, conversations flowed around him without interruption. People assumed he was staff, perhaps an assistant or an observer. No one asked for his opinion. No one offered him a seat at the table. David did not mind. He watched instead. He listened. He learned more about people in those moments than any formal introduction could reveal. When the janitor entered, pushing a cart with cleaning supplies, the atmosphere barely changed. Most people ignored him entirely, continuing their discussions without pause. But the janitor did not ignore David. His name was Michael Harris, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and careful movements. He stopped, looked closely at David's face, and something in his expression shifted from routine exhaustion to stunned recognition. Michael had once known David years earlier, long before billion-dollar deals in boardrooms. Back then, they had worked together cleaning offices late at night. David had been younger, quieter, always polite, always willing to help. Michael remembered the way David would greet him every evening, ask about his family, and pray silently before starting work. Those small acts of kindness had stayed with him long after David disappeared from that world. Michael greeted David warmly, calling him by name with respect and familiarity. The sound of it cut through the room like glass breaking. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Confusion spread across faces that moments earlier had been confident and dismissive. The man they had ignored was suddenly known, not as a nobody, but as someone remembered with honor. David responded with the same humility he always carried. He returned the greeting kindly, asking Michael how life had treated him, how his family was doing, how his health had been. The simplicity of the exchange unsettled the room more than any announcement could have. People began to realize they had misjudged him, and worse, they had revealed something about themselves. As the meeting progressed, introductions were finally made properly. When David's name was spoken with his full credentials, the atmosphere shifted entirely. Whispers replaced silence. Respect replaced indifference. Those who had ignored him now leaned forward, eager to engage. David noticed a change, but he did not respond differently. He treated everyone the same, just as he always had. The story of David's rise was not one of shortcuts or luck. After years of struggle, he founded a technology company focused on ethical innovation and community development. He believed success should lift others, not separate them. His faith guided his decisions, reminding him that wealth was a responsibility, not a reward. Even as his company grew, he refused to forget where he came from. Michael watched the meeting unfold from the edges of the room, pride and disbelief mixing in his chest. He had never imagined that the quiet young man who once shared late-night meals with him would become someone so powerful. Yet David had not changed in the ways that mattered. He was still kind, still attentive, still grounded. During a break, David sought Michael out. They spoke privately, away from the noise and posturing. David learned that Michael had faced years of hardship, including illness and loss, yet continued working with dignity. David listened carefully, not as a benefactor looking down, but as a friend standing beside him. What happened next was not announced publicly. There were no dramatic gestures or headlines. But within weeks, Michael's life changed. David connected him with resources, education opportunities, and a new position within one of his company's community programs. Michael's skills and experience were valued, his voice heard, his future renewed. Word spread quietly through the building and beyond. People began to speak differently to those they once ignored. The janitors, assistants, and maintenance workers noticed subtle changes in how they were treated, all because one moment had exposed the truth about how easily worth was misjudged. David never spoke about that day publicly. He did not need to. His action spoke louder than any speech. He continued attending meetings without demanding attention, continued greeting everyone with the same respect, continued living the values his parents and faith had instilled in him. Years later, the building would host many more conferences, many more powerful people. But those who remembered that day never forgot the lesson it carried. They learned that greatness often stands quietly, waiting not for recognition, but for understanding. Just before the story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what the story made you feel. Your words might remind someone that kindness still matters, especially when no one is watching. In the end, it was not the janitor's greeting that stunned everyone most. It was the realization that the man they overlooked had been the most important person in the room all along, not because of his wealth, but because of his character. And in that realization, some found humility, some found regret, and others found a second chance to see the world and the people in it differently.